Hey kaiju fans, I'm the boy who cried Godzilla. Today, to round out our coverage of the MonsterVerse Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan, we're talking about how director Mike Dougherty and the army of artists at his command updated these classic kaiju for Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Legendary licensed King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Rodan from Toho in 2014, well before they hired Dougherty. While the company didn't mandate that he use them, he said learning that he could was like Christmas morning. It was a Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster reunion, except this time, the sides would be even. Legacy FX, Amalgamated Dynamic Incorporated, and Half MT were all involved in designing the Titans, with instructions to make them look mythical with recognizable silhouettes. Per Dougherty in his audio commentary of the movie, the four main Titans were each meant to represent a different element.
Water, earth, fire, air.
The artists used a combination of traditional concept art, clay models, ZBrush, and Maya to arrive at the final designs. Of course, these designs were the subject of furious fan speculation even before the cave paintings in Kong Skull Island, up till Legendary and SH Monster Arts revealed them in full at Tokyo Comic Con 2018. Adding fuel to the fire, a NECA Mothra figure, a Rodan maquette, and possibly a CG Ghidorah model all leaked online before then. Obviously, the Titans weren't present on set, but to help actors react, Dougherty blasted their roars using a device he called Behemoth and Voice of God. LED screens representing the monster's bioluminescence allowed for more natural lighting. Under the supervision of Guillaume Rocheron, 7 companies worked on the 1,535 visual effects shots for Godzilla King of the Monsters. According to Rocheron, MPC handled most of the battle scenes and created models for the 4 main monsters. The end credits listed the 4 Titans as playing themselves, the first Godzilla movie to include such a joke, but credited the actors who provided the motion capture reference further down. Though clearly recognizable as Godzilla's arch rival, Legendary's King Ghidorah deviated from past designs in 2 key ways: a more muscular chest to support his 3 necks, and a willingness to walk on his wings like a bat. Early concepts explored emphasizing the creature's extraterrestrial origins, but a more traditional design won out. According to sculptor Simon Lee, "I didn't want the creature to have the wings spread all the time, as that can actually create a problem with the camera framing, because of how big he is." Lee made nearly 60 concept sculptures of Ghidorah, including the final maquette, with Timothy Martin making some final tweaks during production. The artists were inspired by Asian dragons, reptiles, dinosaurs, bats, giraffes, horses, and various marine life. Once Ghidorah's design progressed to 3D modeling, his wings took on the texture of a bat, while his skin drew from corn snakes, iguanas, and chameleons. In addition, Half MT co-owner Miguel Ortega noted that rust and potatoes were useful for all the monsters, since there's something about them that your brain knows is created by nature as opposed to by hand. At one point in his life, Dougherty owned 3 dogs, each with their own temperament. Ghidorah's heads followed suit, with a commanding center head, aggressive right head, and curious left head. Dougherty nicknamed them Ichi, Ni, and San, though fans embraced a different sobriquet for the left head, Kevin, as the director jokingly tweeted. A different actor played each of Ghidorah's heads for motion capture reference: Jason Lyles in the center, Richard Dorton on the left, and Alan Maxon on the right. Rocheron explained that this helped the animators better understand how 3 different brains perform the same action at the same time. For battles against Godzilla, they worked with TJ Storm, reprising his role from the 2014 film. Lyles had experience in the genre as well, having played George in Rampage. In an interview with Jadine Mercado of Nerd Alert News, he recounted the day that one of Dougherty's dogs visited the set. Much as Ghidorah whipped Titans around the world into a frenzy, the actor's performances were compelling enough to drive him berserk, barking like crazy as the staff tried to calm him. With 3 heads, a pair of wings, and 2 tails, rigging and animating Ghidorah was no easy task, even in the previs stage. The filmmakers based his fighting style on bears and Komodo dragons, giving him overlap with Godzilla. One of the most devastating moves was inspired by golden eagles, who kill goats by picking them up and dropping them off mountains. There was one physical Ghidorah prop on the set, which was ultimately cut from the movie, a tooth that Madison backed into while trying to evade him in Fenway Park. Snake hisses went into his new roars, and if you listen closely, you can hear his Showa-era flying sound just before he touches down in Boston. And later, one of his Heisei-era grunts. Dougherty regarded Mothra as the most difficult monster to redesign. He directed his team to give Mothra more physicality than previous incarnations, and they came up with a wasp-like stinger and mantis-like spiked forearms. These weapons would look out of place on most Toho Mothras, but the designers opted to make her body more sleek and streamlined, closer in proportions to a real insect. Early designs proved to look too tank-like. They settled on something closer to a jet fighter. Elements of dragonfly wings, hornets, butterflies, and of course, moths went into her new look. Dougherty also revisited Starship Troopers, presumably for the brain bug. The spots on her wings were patterned after Godzilla's eyes to allude to their symbiotic relationship. Mothra is one of the few explicitly female kaiju, and Dougherty wanted her to look like an old vase. According to Luca Nimolato, the idea was that this civilization in the past had seen her and been inspired by these shapes to create their fertility gods, and she's the mother queen of them. Cast and crew alike regarded Mothra as a more spiritual, even angelic monster, representing Mother Nature's protector, and a perpetual cycle of death and rebirth. That said, she also had to look dangerous, necessitating a delicate balance in her features. Needless to say, it can be difficult for a human audience to glean much emotion from the face of a moth, so the animators developed a highly advanced face rig for her model. Her mandibles, wings, and legs all helped her emote as well. Mothra's larval form really only appears in a single scene, but her design still required great care, going through a zillion different versions in the words of Ortega. The first monster in the film audiences see for an extended period, she needed to go from scaring them to charming them in a matter of seconds. As insect larvae don't have much in the way of faces, the designers had to weld together aspects from several larval and adult insects to give her eyes and a mouth. Even though she was a newborn, the team wanted her to still feel tough, so they armed her with claws, a big step up from the itty-bitty legs of all past Mothra larvae, as well as armored plates. Though all four of the movie's main titans have bioluminescence, Mothra's is the most extreme. As a larva, she emits orange light when alarmed, red when enraged, and blue when calmed, a nod to the larva in Godzilla Tokyo SOS changing their eye color when their mother died. Dougherty also wanted the imago to leave trails of luminous dust that gave her a comet-like tail as she flew, but in the interest of not having every scene be overpowered by her presence, he opted to have it disperse as she flew and mix in with the surrounding clouds. In an alternate post-credits scene that was storyboarded but never filmed, Monarch brought Mothra's egg to a hidden chamber in Tokyo where Chen's daughters sang to it. We would have put this in the last video, but Dougherty posted about it just hours before the upload finished.
Local legends call it Rodan.
Mike Dougherty holds Rodan in high regard, but even he admitted that the kaiju has always been more of a sidekick. He's a hench monster. In one version of the story, Rodan defected to Godzilla's side to oppose Ghidorah, but to switch up expectations, he stuck with Monster Zero for as long as he could in the film. In Rodan's debut, he and his mate seemingly perished in Mount Aso, and either he or his offspring emerged from that same volcano in Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster. Dougherty wanted him to live in a volcano again, and look the part with the wings covered in cooled magma. The sparks and lava falling from his wings also helped evoke the image of a phoenix. One piece of concept art by Christopher Schei even showed him spitting fire, and he seems to have a breath weapon of some kind in the Kong Skull Island cave painting as well. Why was that dropped? Toho seems reluctant to depict regular Rodan spitting any weapon, only ever giving one to the separately trademarked Fire Rodan. The monster's wind breath seen in the original film has never returned either. Influences from the animal kingdom included pterosaurs, of course, turkey vultures, eagles, hawks, and the feet of ostriches. Matt Alsop, returning from the 2014 film, recalled that the artists quickly realized that they had to steer clear of anything that looked too much like the male Muto. Some concepts even gave Rodan feathers, which would have been a first for the character, and a nice callback to the unused feather-winged Rodan designs all the way back from 1956. Tim Martin of ADI included the feathers in his maquette, dubbed the final maquette in the art book, though they were ultimately removed. Rodan's awakening and battle with Monarch was one of the first sequences to go through Previs. Outpost 56 restrained him with giant harpoon guns in this version, only for Monarch's own jets to blow them up so they could lure him towards Ghidorah. The animators based his fighting style on eagles, with the third-floor supervisor Andrew Honecker describing him as a drunken brawler as well. His new roars were derived from recordings of owls, penguins, vultures, and some cranes Dougherty's mother filmed in her backyard. Dougherty didn't originally plan to use any motion capture for Rodan, but he decided to let Jason Liles have a try at the end of a day of filming. Sadly, we haven't found any images of that session, and the credits don't mention it either. And that's all she wrote for Godzilla's co-stars in King of the Monsters. Check out the rest of the trio's kaiju profile if you haven't already, or if you have, maybe take a look at our Muto profile. If you're in the mood for something a little different, you could watch our MonsterVerse timeline presented from an in-universe perspective. To read up on more than what's covered in these videos, you can always check out Wikizilla.org's pages. And for those asking when we'll be releasing updated profiles of MonsterVerse Godzilla or Kong, they will be done after Godzilla vs. Kong is out on Blu-ray. With all of that said, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. See ya!